Good morning, I'm Cody Henriksen, and today we're going to be looking at using MIT's AppInventor tool, just doing a quick little introduction of how we can set it up and how we can work with it, and going from there. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a project with it. It's really quite easy. Start off with this tab over here with the Create Apps button, and it'll bring you right over to this basic screen. It asks you to give it a name. When we're giving a name, we do have to keep in mind that we don't get spaces in here. If you do type in a space, it's going to replace it with an underscore, and those are a pain to remember and look at anyway, so we don't want to do that. So just give it no spaces. And I always give my names something that starts with a capital letter, and it reflects what we're working on at the time. So in this case, as you can see, it's a demo project, so it's just right there. And it brings us to this default screen right here so we can see exactly what we're looking at. This is just the startup right here is exactly what we'll see. Now you have a bunch of different options up here. As you can see, we have on the left right here, we have our palette. This is where we get all the components we want to use inside AppInventor to actually use inside the app themselves. We have our viewer section right here in the middle. This is where we can place things and do the visual layout of our app and how we can organize it. The next section is the components hierarchy. This hierarchy is how we can see how the pieces that are inside our app exist as a structural way and how they relate to other pieces. As you can see right now, I just have screen one, which is the default thing that starts with everything, and there's nothing else inside it. It's empty. Now there's one thing we can do right here. Screen one is the only component you can't rename. You'll notice it's highlighted and the rename button is disabled because you can't rename screen one. It's the default screen for every single app. The last section on this first screen that we have is the properties section. And in the properties section, as you can see, you can scroll down quite a bit. You have the ability to give information for about each individual component that you have inside the app. And this is where you can tell what you want to do, make changes to it, organize things like there. And so right here, you can see an accent color, how you want to align the components that are inside this, what its app's name. And right here, we can give it a space so it looks more like something that's actually readable by humans, because humans can read spaces, but things like projects can't. We can give it a background color, a background image to the default screen, any animations or anything right here that we want to use for this. And we can even say our orientation like this. We want this to be a landscape orientation, and boom, it automatically changes our viewer screen as well. So it's a great thing we can do. We also have some more information we can use to handle stuff like a responsive sizing. Our title of this, instead of screen one, we can say this, my first app. And so we just type it right there, and as soon as I click off something else, it'll automatically reflect that change right here. And even more so, when you're hooked up to the emulator, it'll automatically make the change with that or via the AI companion. So it's a great thing you can do. You can see the changes live happen right there. Now, simple changes like this right here that we see on the screen for this basic on the viewer section, they can be reflected easily and will show up. However, more complex changes like code-based changes and interaction changes, those only show in the actual app itself or inside the simulator. And we'll take a look at that as we go through. And so that's the basic start that we're going to work with. You also have your version that you can put on there, all that fun stuff, whether the title is visible or not. So if I take that checkbox off of here, title visible, boom, the title goes away, even though it still has a title on it. So it's great stuff. So you can see some really basic stuff. I can also say that font size, I don't want it to be a font size, I want it to be tablet sized. Or I want this to be monitor sized. Huge, great, you can do that. But I usually do a phone size because it's a great way to help prep for what I'm doing, especially when I'm doing my first app. That's a great way to have that set up. Now, right now, if I want to have this app up and running, it will. It'll work perfectly just like this, and it'll just do just that. And it's kind of boring. But we can make this so it's actually more interactive and stuff, and we can do that by simply using the components that are built into the application of AppInventor and add them to our phone app so we can make things happen. And this is how we can do all of our basic apps we'll start off with. So before we do that, again, just a quick review. We have our palette, where we get all the components. The viewer is how we do the visual layout of information. The component hierarchy is how I can see how those pieces are structured together. And finally, the property section is where I can do customization, so I can make things happen. And again, most of these customization things will show up in a basic form right here on this cute little window we're looking at. But to see the actual impact that it really looks like, we have to make sure we're working this inside either the emulator or inside an actual phone device. And we'll see how to do that in just a minute. I'll show you with an emulator because you can't really show a phone as easily on this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drag something in. So in order to use this, it's the magic power of click and drag. So all you have to do is master that really quick, easy skill. So I drag a button onto here, and boom, text for button one is automatic right there. You can see it's inside the viewer. It also shows as a component, a subcomponent of the screen one. And I can rename this to better reflect what it is. And so again, we always want to start from the very beginning, making sure we're using good naming conventions. And we want to make sure we name things that will reflect what they are doing, what they are. And so we'll change this name. Instead of having a button one, we'll have this be, say, for example, color button. Because it's going to be a button that's going to work with color. And it's going to be a great, cute button. And it still says text for button one because even though I renamed the button instance, it doesn't affect the contents of the button. And so again, in order to make it so we can update the contents of this or the properties of this, we go over to the properties column over on the right-hand side of the screen. And as you can see right here, I have that text for button 1, and I can say click for color. Now, as soon as I click away from that, that automatically changes this right here. However, when I click this button, you can see that it does actually interact with me in a really basic level. However, that basic interaction doesn't actually do anything because there's no logic attached to it. This is just a quick little web screen to hold information and show how things are. In order to do any of the actual code or programming, the interaction components, we leave the display section or the designer section right here, and we click on the blocks screen instead. So we'll click on the blocks screen, and we change to a new screen. As you can see, it's got blocks right here. You've got a little backpack, a garbage can on the right-hand side, and instead of the palette on the left, we have our blocks on the left. And the blocks on the left are where we're going to get the information we're going to be working with. We have our built-in section of blocks. These are the ones that every single app has, are built in. We have the apps that, we have the blocks that belong to this screen, which is the screen 1 blocks, and then we have the any component, which is a bit more advanced, and we'll talk about that another time. So let's take a look at the built-in first. The built-in, we have control, logic, math, text, lists, dictionaries, colors, variables, procedures. Each of the components within that, if you click on each of them, you can see that they have, again, color match things that match what's going on with that. And each of those values that are in there have something to do with that style of code that works with that. And we'll take a more detailed look at that another time. Inside screen 1, we have our screen 1, which have the buttons that the screen can handle. And then underneath screen 1, every single instance of a thing we dragged over from the palette into the viewer, all those instances have their own buttons and blocks that go along with it. And they're listed over here underneath that right there. So you can get access to that in here. And so we click on the color button just to start off. And as you can see, we have some C-shaped components that are kind of yellowish in color, and then we have alternating dark and light green blocks that we can also work with. Now, these C-shaped blocks are the event blocks. These are the ones that interact with the user, and these are ones that in order for something to happen, it has to be enclosed within a C-shaped block. So these are ones we're going to first look at and work with on a regular basis. The ones that are light and dark green are how I either access or change the properties of the component that we're working with. So I have color button.getBackground color, which is a getter for it. Or I have in dark green, I have the setter for color button.background color, and then it has a 2. So you can tell which one you're working with because it's going to have either set at the beginning and it has a socket on the right-hand side, or it has a plugin component on the left-hand side and it just retrieves that value. So getters retrieve things, setters change things. But we'll talk more about that as we go through. Now with a button, we have a couple different things we can work with. We've got click, focus, long click, lost focus, touch down, touch up. And the one we're going to be working with 95% of the time is just the dot click. Now, we use the approach right here. So when we're working with AppInventor, they're trying to use the same style of writing code that you'd see in other programming languages. And so when the color button is clicked, we do this. And so we just drag that out, and that's where we're going to make something happen. And so when I click the color button, I want something to happen for this. And so right now, as we see on the designer, our screen itself is white. And we're going to make it so when we click the button, it's going to be red. So in order to do that, I have to go back over here to my screen 1. I want to go down here and I'm going to get the screen color. And so I have my background color, the set screen 1 background color 2. I'll drag that out. And when I drag that out, it just plugs right in there. And I can plug it in, and you hear a nice little clicky sound, just like that. Let's try it again, just make sure we can hear it. So take it out, plug it back in, and there's a good click. So we can see there and hear there's a click, and when I drag it around, when I know it's in there, you can see that it's connected to this. Now, notice right now I have that giant red X at the front. That's saying that this is not going to work. Anytime you have an empty socket, it's saying, hey, this is not going to even work. It won't compile. It's not going to operate. And so that empty socket is this thing right here. And so I have to give it a value. And so I can either go into the colors section and drag the red out from here, that cute little red block on that, or I can simply go right here. I click on the background of this and I type in the word red. And you can see there's that little dark bold section right there. And I hit enter and I get a red block. So I can automatically drag that straight out and it plugs it right in. Now you can see that there's no longer a red X down here with a number count on it, nor is there a red X on this, so that error message is gone. It's great, it's working, everything's happy. And if I go over here and I go back to my designer, I click on this, it doesn't change the color. I do have code, I have blocks that work for this. Again, nothing app itself is going to work yet because when we just click on this is just a quick little web view. We can't actually run the application itself inside here. It's not an actual Android device. It's just a web page. Now, web pages are cool and all, but it's not that cool yet. And so in order to do so, we need to go over to the Connect menu. And on the Connect menu, we have 3 different options we can easily hook this up to. The IA Companion app is a way we can actually run this as a live interaction app inside an Android device that's connected to it using Wi-Fi. And it's a great way to make that work. We have the emulator, so you can actually run it right here on this machine. And it's a great way to do it, especially how we'll be using it here in class. You can also tether it via USB. And so you can have a USB phone or tablet plugged into your computer you're working on and make that connection as well. We're going to be using the emulator to make that happen. And so to do so, all we have to do is on that connect menu, we go down and we choose emulator. And it's going to run a tiny little pretend Android device right here on this machine. So we have a cute little waiting thing. So starting the Android emulator might take a minute or two. That's okay. And you just let it wait. And it does take time. As you can see, we have this lovely starter right here. So it's popping up. I'm going to say OK. It pops up in there, and it's going to have this now. It has to boot this system running right here. So this is going to have to boot. And if we look over here inside Chrome, it's like emulator starting, waiting some time to make sure everything is running. So it does take a bit of time. So you have to wait. Don't be in a rush. It's okay. The computer's going to do just fine. And making sure it's in there. And it's going to start. And it's running to get the blocks. Okay, good. Make sure everything's running. You can see it's happening right here. Waiting 1 second, everything's verifying the companion started. And you're out of date, so you have to say click OK to start the update. And you have to go ahead and go to all and choose install this first time. Looks like I have to reset my connection. Great. So I go back over to connect and I go reset connection. And it closes that back down. So I have to go back up here and go back to the emulator, start it back up. This normally happens the first time. It may not happen every single time, so no big deal. So we're going to have to sit there and wait. It's got the companion app right there. We can see that it's wanting to install that, making sure it's going to install. We're going to click and make sure we see something properly. So we have to scroll down here, saying it's okay, and choose install, and installing 2.59U. It's a good sign. Let's cross our fingers here. Make sure everything's happy. The app companion has started, and click for color. We have my first app right there. Hey, we've got it. So when I click right here, nothing happens. But look, when I click on this, watch. It's red. It's amazing. This is the best app ever. Now, when I click it again, it stays red because, well, that's all it's going to do. So let's go ahead and let's take this and make it a bit more. So in order to do this, all we have to do is we go over here to our block section. And in our block section, we're going to keep on using that one color button dot click. But now we're going to use the ability to use some logic on this. And so if it's red, let's change it to a different color. If it's a different color, let's make it red. And so in order to do so, we're going to go ahead and use in the control section, we're going to drag out an if block. So an if block allows us to make some decisions on stuff. It's a great way to ask questions when things are happening. And so what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in, and we're going to plug it inside the C shape, so we now have a C inside a C. And in order to make the if so it has two different options, we have to use a little bit of a change so we can add it so we have an else on there. And so we click on the little gearbox, and we drag the else, and an else always has to be the last one. You'll notice I can't plug another else underneath it. There's only just one. It just plops that one right out, and that's not very helpful. So we have if some test, else do this other thing. So I'm going to click back on here. And now I have this if. And so honestly, if it's red, then we're going to make it red, make a different color. Otherwise, we'll make it red. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to ask the screen what color it is. So we go to screen 1. We're going to scroll down, and we're going to get the screen color. And that's the one that's the light green with the dot background color. We'll drag that out. And then we're going to say if the screen background color is red. But we don't use English to do that. We use a different thing. We use the logic thing. We're going to go over to logic, and we're going to drag an equal sign. So we're going to grab that out here, and we're going to drag the background color into here and plug it in. And I can either copy this red right here using Command C, Command V to pop that right in there. I can plug it right in. Or again, like I did earlier, I can type in the word red, and I can get a red dot right there. And I can delete it just by hitting the delete key. Or again, I can go over to the color section and grab a red block from that. And they're all the same red. They all work the exact same way. So those are the great ways we can do that. So if it's red, we're going to make it a different color. And so we're going to go right here and we're going to type this. So screen 1 dot background color. So set screen 1 background color. And I can type it out and it automatically moves right there. So with that highlighted, and let's see, let's do a great color. So we want to use a great color right here. We're going to do colors, And we picked red. We'll do magenta. So we have a red magenta switching. So if it is red, we're going to make it magenta. Otherwise, we'll make it red. So we have a logic right here. So it's going to make a question. Now, the great power of AppInventor is with the emulator or the AI companion is as soon as I make those changes, it's automatically listening for it right here with that app running. So I can click, 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 click. And we have it interacting right away. And so this app right here is just running inside the emulator. It's not actually an app itself right now. It's just running it through another app, the AI companion. So it's not finalized yet. This is saved right here. It's inside your Google account. It's great and it's easy to access. You can update this and work on it all you want. You can do some great things. But if you want to share this app with someone else to show, say for example, your mom, your grandma, or one of your friends, the amazing power of color clicking, clicky, clicky, clicky. You want to make that happen? It's really easy. All you have to do is go over here to the build section. In the build menu, you have the build app, provide a QR code for the APK, or app, save APK to my computer. So if I do this one right here, I save the APK, I download the actual installable file that it can run on any Android device. So say, for example, you email this to someone, they can click on the link and boom, install that app right there. It's amazing. Or with this QR code, we pop that up right here, generates the QR code, it's compiling it, so it's actually turning your blocks into a real application that can run on any Android device. It's amazing. It does take measurable time. As you can see, it's compiling part 1, compiling part 2, we're at 35%. It does take a bit of time, but that's okay. We wait just a minute. Dance, 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 dance. Everyone's good to dance when they're waiting because it's better than just sitting still and being bored. So we can dance all we want. Now, it does take some time because what this is doing is it's talking over the server over MIT on the Google servers with them as well. And it's like, hey, send information back and forth and build an actual application that can run on any Android device. And that is a fairly complex process to build all those components. If you want to look at how you can actually make your own Android apps outside of AppInventor, there's a great tool called Android Studio. It allows you to make those in building. It uses either Java as a language or Kotlin as a language. And it's something you can do for some advanced projects maybe after you played with this a bit. But like I said, that's a bit story for another day. Right now, we're just waiting for it to compile. We just wait a little bit longer. And we're going to wait. And we're going to wait. I'm probably going to put this in fast forward mode in a minute, but that's okay. But we have to actually wait in the real world. The real world will be 100% waiting for the barcode. Now, this is where it gets to be really interesting. So we're going to get a barcode right here. This barcode right here is valid for 2 hours. So you can grab this barcode right here and you can share it with anyone in the next 2 hours. They can have access to this app right here and they can do it. If you want to share this app with others, we click on the see this FAQ. We'll click that link right here. And that's where, again, we build the APK to your computer and you can give it right there and give it so anyone else can have access to it. But again, this is something you can do really quick and easy. And so we want to have a look at this. So let's do a quick review. I'm going to say, okay, I don't need to keep this app because it's not amazing. And so we have our blocks right here. Now this app is saved right here inside my Google account. It's not going to go away. It auto saves right there. If I want to make sure I back this up, even so, I can go right here to my projects menu, go down here and save project as. I can save the entire whole project again inside my built-in Google account. If I go ahead and click save project as, gives it automatic copy, cancel. We don't need to worry about making an extra copy of that. You can just hit automatically save project. You auto save it right there. But it's right there. You can have access to all of those. And so we've got access to this. We can go ahead and add more features to this. We can add more buttons to this and have that right there. And this is all going to be available for us. We can still keep working on it. And look, my app is still right here. I can still click back and forth, red, purple, red, purple. Magenta is a great color. And so I can make all those changes right here. I can add even more features. This is just that first quick little app we have access to. So again, if you need to review how to do this, you can do all sorts of stuff. Inside the palette, though, there's even more things than just buttons. There's all sorts of GUI components we can work with. We have layout managers, so you can organize your code, layout managers, so you can organize how your app looks visually, and you can do some really good organization features, make it so it looks more professional, and you can do some really cool stuff. The media section, you can do things like access the camera and the camcorder right inside your app, really cool stuff. Drawing animation, we'll definitely be doing this in class. You can do some drawing within your app, really pretty cool. And you have some map access, you have sensors, we'll be using those for at least one assignment in class. There's all sorts of different things you can do to make this happen, and all this is just built right here inside a browser. You run this simulator with it as well, and you're good to go. But that's a quick little way you can use MIT's AppInventor, make your own app, do some great stuff. Hope this is helpful, and have a great day. We'll see you later in the future.